I think it was George Patton who had once said, fatigue is the death of courage. And if that's true, then the opposite also has an enormous impact. The more energy you have, if you have like the opposite of fatigue, the more courageous you will be. In this regard, I've always been very curious about how to keep my testosterone levels high. But what I found from the research is that for the most part, your testosterone levels are like set in stone. They're largely set in stone. You can tweak lifestyle and make your testosterone levels stay healthy, but you can't do anything to actively increase testosterone outside of testosterone replacement therapy, literally injecting yourself with more testosterone. However, there is a component to high testosterone levels that often doesn't get acknowledged in, I guess we call it the manosphere space. And that is this idea that feeling like a winner makes you have high testosterone levels. This sounds a little woo-woo, law of attraction-y, I do understand that. But in this video, I want to share a handful of ideas about why I think feeling like a winner, creating mental wins for yourself, is the best way to keep your testosterone levels healthy. So the first idea is literally this: create wins for yourself. There was a study done at the University of Cambridge that basically revealed that men in a certain environment who had won some sort of competition had elevated testosterone levels. Basically, the research team measured hormone levels as well as a self-perceived attractiveness in men. And the sense of competition was judged by pitting the men against each other in like a rowing challenge. They were just rowing against each other. And the men who won, like they won the rowing competition, or rather just perceived themselves as a winner as a result of the competition, had received an average testosterone increase of 4.92%, while those who felt like they lost, their testosterone levels had dropped by an average of 7.24%. Overall, men who perceived themselves as winners had testosterone levels 14.46% higher than their deflated opponents. The study concluded by saying this: testosterone and its corresponding psychological effects can fluctuate quickly and opportunistically, shifting towards short-term mating in response to a perceived change in status that may increase mating value. Which is to say, our perception of ourselves affects our testosterone levels. You know, some time ago, Hamza had made a video about increasing testosterone, and his conclusion at the end was basically saying, like, he law of attraction himself into having more testosterone. Like, he believed he had a certain testosterone amount. I think testosterone is measured in nanograms per deciliter. I'm not quite sure actually, but he said he basically visualized having a testosterone level like in the 700s, and he had that in the results sometime later. He literally imagined a result and then actualized it. Now, back when I saw that video of his, I thought it sounded a little bit ridiculous. Like, I'm open to the idea of using the law of attraction to affect your physiology. Sure, I think mindset is huge, but to actually think of a testosterone level number and then have it affect you, it didn't seem real at the time. However, and I can say this because Hamza is a friend of mine, but the fact that Hamza has been winning consistently for a year and a half at this point, I would say that probably has something to do with his elevated testosterone levels. I mean, feeling like a winner, approaching each day, and especially getting wins early in your day, it changes the whole vibe. Some time ago, I wanted to go on a second date with someone, a girl I just met, and it seemed like she was about to flake. Like, the response times of her texts were getting longer and longer. And I remember kind of feeling bummed on a Monday morning because we were supposed to make plans and it seemed like they were gonna fall through. And then I had a big business win in that day. Like, I've been trying to book more high-end videography clients, and basically it seemed like we just booked someone. And it's almost like I felt so confident right afterwards because I felt like my video agency career was taking off more. And I didn't care at all about how this girl was treating me or like the fact that she was gonna flake on me because I felt like such a champion. Of course, I didn't have like the opportunity to have researchers measuring my testosterone levels before and after this, you know, exchange of messages and then this videography win. But I gotta tell you, I went to the gym later that day and just crushed deadlifts, feeling like a champion because I had started taking on wins in that day. So while there's a number of different smaller strategies that people have pointed to about increasing testosterone levels, I would argue this is the first place to start, is to get yourself feeling more and more like a winner each day and almost like strategically stacking wins throughout your day. Now, there's 5 sub-principles that I want to extrapolate on within this first idea, and they all have to do with making yourself feel more like a winner. The first idea is that you should plan each day the night before. When I would read a lot of Brian Tracy books back in the day, one of the OG self-help productivity people, He would talk about this principle all the time, plan each day the night before. And there would be seasons of my life where I would kind of adopt this habit and then it would fall off and let it go. Maybe I would overplan a certain day and then I'd feel dejected because that day didn't go that well. But this was especially helpful to me when I was like a broke actor and it was like I just quit my teaching job to pursue acting full time. I would try to make myself feel like more of a winner by just planning out the day. And even if what I was planning felt very simple, like at 9:30 I'm going to clean my room or whatever it might be. It's like smaller things that are entirely within my control. Exacting some amount of leverage in my day and saying like, hey, my day is going to be made according to how I decide it to be. It does help you feel more like a winner. In fact, it's a very strategic way of feeling more like a winner. Additionally, this habit really improves your productivity. Like you actually get so much more done when you set an intention. According to Brian Tracy, planning each day the night before increases your productivity for the next day by like 1,000%. Potentially you gain an extra 2 hours of productive time each day because you're not going through that day making decisions. A lot of the decisions have been made the night before. And I gotta say, a lot of people I admire, like the real estate agent Ryan Serhant, who's like a multi-million-dollar CEO and YouTuber. He plans every day the night before. A lot of people talk about this. Jocko Willink is someone I really admire. Every day is planned out. He lays out his workout clothes the night before. And it's just a great way to make sure that when you start the following morning, things are just going to your liking. Like you are in charge of the day and you're not being whipped around by the storms of time. You decide what time will be. The second sub-principle is very related to the first, and that is to visualize the success of that day. I now realize this more than ever because my boxing coach, who was on my podcast, Austin, some of you might have seen that episode, he and I have been having nutrition talks more often. And sometimes I'm blown away by how much planning and how much intention he gives to nutrition. He actually knows exactly what he's going to eat at what time of day. Like he has a plan for the food he eats. Now I thought I had been on top of nutrition, right? I was eating, lean sources of protein and vegetables and all this stuff. But to know exactly what you're going to consume at what time and how it's going to align with your lift so that you hit a certain anabolic window. And then furthermore, he would visualize the result that was associated with it. It really helped me understand things at a different level. If you're going to adopt this first sub-principle of planning each day the night before, what you should definitely do is just like also visualize. Visualize yourself executing on how that day is going to look and visualize it both in first person and third person perspective. So first person, like see yourself and you're like your hands in front of you going through and doing that thing, and then also see yourself as like you're a bird in the sky looking down at yourself and like seem like, oh, this is what this guy does. He wakes up at this time, he makes his bed, the coffee is made with intention, he drinks it and he heads to the gym and then he does deep work at this time. And when this meeting comes up, he takes the meeting in a certain way and he responds to everyone calmly and strategically. Thinking of yourself in a certain way and then sort of beginning to like act as if, literally playing pretend, but pretending you're some like this badass character actually has an effect on your output. And while I can't, cite this directly from any study, I have no doubt it would have an effect on your testosterone levels. The third idea I want to share here is that each phase of your day should have small wins built into it. So this is like a key component of this video, using small wins to feel more like a winner. Because the truth is, most of our days, they feel pretty bland. And especially if you compare yourself to like the stories on Instagram, one almost begins to forget how much of a successful life comes down to doing the same 5 things over and over again and just dialing in on the stuff that's important and not actually getting too fancy. But to remind yourself of like the excitement that exists in the quiet, as I like to say it, you should have strategic wins that are put into each aspect of your day. So, one of the first wins you can have in the morning is to like take a cold shower. The mornings where I take a cold shower, it's like I'm getting up, I'm going to be showering anyway, but this time I made the shower cold. You realize, oh, psychologically, I have done something that a lot of people don't do. It was a tiny thing, but it was good for me. And so it supercharges that part of the day. It makes you feel like a little bit more like a winner. Or later on in the day, okay, I'm only going to take a 90-second rest before I hit squats again. And I'm going to be focusing on just perfect form, like thinking about form to the best of my ability. When I'm in the gym, I'm not just sort of like going through the motions. I'm actually completing this act as like an intention, as a sort of practiced performance of how I want to live my whole life. I've actually started doing this throughout my day. If I'm talking to a client of mine, I like sometimes will get on that call and tell myself, okay, I'm going to be the best possible coach for this next hour. Like maybe some of this day has had inefficiency in it, but I'm really going to dial in and like deliver on this. So this moment, if someone were to see me, this moment would be like this incredible reflection of me. Each phase of your day should have small wins built into it. A lot of this just comes down to planning. You're planning your day, you're visualizing your day, then also plan out strategic wins throughout your day, and your like energy levels and your focus and your ability to have courage will be higher than ever. The fourth sub idea is a little bit more long-term, but it is pretty important. And that is chase goals that teeter the line between you having 100% confidence that you can achieve them and also they're scary and exciting. Just teeter that line. So I don't believe in having safe goals. Well, not really. Like that's not a true goal. So if you feel 100% confident that you can hit something, I mean, you should still pursue that thing, but it often isn't enough to generate momentum or excitement. Your goals need to be both like super achievable. You're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do this, but also exciting. Like just exciting enough where you're like, oh. And I have to play these games with myself all the time to stay motivated, and I don't mind using superficial things to set as a goal. Like for a while there, having a fancy car was like a materialistic, superficial goal, but it did motivate me to work harder. And now it's the same thing. I mean, maybe I really need to dial back, but now it's like, I want the James Bond watch. I've like had this watch, the Omega Seamaster, on my vision board for many years since I was like a broke actor. And I think, what kind of success would I have to achieve to feel comfortable getting this watch? Okay, that's an interesting target to set. Do I think I can achieve it? Yes. Is it big enough to be exciting? Yeah, definitely. You set goals that are like 100% achievable, but also exciting, and you keep them at the forefront of your mind. Now, the wrong way to do this is to set goals that are just completely out there. They're too big, they're too lofty, or goals that are so small that you're like, sure, I can achieve them, but like I was going to achieve them anyway. It's matter of fact. It doesn't actually excite me. When you think about your goals, you want to feel like you're at a cliff's edge and you're going to jump off. You're like going base jumping with your goals. You're like, I'm probably going to survive this, but also I am a little bit scared. Teeter that line, because reflecting on goals of that intention will just make you feel like more of a winner. The final idea I want to share with this first principle is that you should decide on and engage in acts of occasional courage, right? Occasionally, you should be scared of something and you should just do it. Like for me, I had never done cold approach before. To be honest, I haven't really needed to, because if I wanted to date, I would find a lot of success off the apps. But this summer I was like, I don't want to use the apps. And so it was the first time in my life that I cold approached someone. And literally my leg was shaking. It was kind of, I'm embarrassed to say, but like as soon as I went up to this person, I like just said whatever came to mind, and my leg was shaking. I'm glad she didn't notice, but I got pretty nervous about it. But it was an occasional act of courage. In the same way, motorcycling on the highway for the first time and going to join like this motorcyclists meetup, that was kind of a scary thing. I've never been more focused on staying alive, but it was an act of courage. And when I came home from that and like found a new part of my identity, sure, it's a small thing. Sure, you just got on a motorcycle and drove around a bit. What's the big deal for that? It caused an identity shift. Engaging in true acts of courage, it is just scary. It's just like deeply uncomfortable no matter what. But if you somehow can do those and get yourself on the other side of those actions, it's like very, very exhilarating. This was all in service of the first principle, which is to feel like more of a winner, literally create wins for yourself throughout the day. Before moving on to two other smaller ideas, I do want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video. The sponsor being myself, the Captain Sinbad YouTuber Group Coaching Academy. Now, the first cohort of the Academy has started. I'm working with a handful of people who are all committed to getting 100,000 subscribers in 1 year. And I, as a coach, I'm also a student of the program. It's been really cool because we're so locked in and we have such a great like inner circle mastermind, and we're just helping each other elevate, that I know everyone is going to make great strides. A lot of my coaching clients with YouTube, it's like they've started winning in subtle ways early on. One of my clients who I'm really, really proud of, his name is Kevin. His channel is called Captain Freemind. If you watch his videos from 2.5 months ago to now, you'll just see that the thumbnails have improved so much. And moreover than that, his authentic delivery, there's just something very honest and clean and masculine about the way he delivers now, whereas in the past, it felt like he was afraid of the camera. There's so much to being a YouTuber that is under the surface. How do you explain authenticity? And people could say like, oh, but it hasn't led to more views right away. But my students and people in my cohort, they are stacking on these small wins as content creators, and they're getting better. And it's almost like I know progress is coming for everyone in the cohort and everyone who puts in the work. So if you want to grow your own YouTube channel, we are just about to close up the first cohort slot, but Cohort 2 will begin in November, and I encourage you to apply now. If you want to grow a YouTube channel, let's just have a conversation. Let's see if we're a good fit. And as someone who has been a YouTuber for 4 years, there's so much I wish I knew in those first 2 years. I would have saved so much time in the creation process and literally learned the rules of the game so much earlier. All of success in the world of business and finance and so many aspects of life is knowing how the game works. A lot of this stuff, it's just a game. It's a very serious game, but the reason someone else is getting results that you might not be is because they just learned the framework. They learned the rules of that world, and then they started practicing them, and then they got in line for those rules long enough to see long-term results. So if you learn the rules, get in line, the results will eventually come. As Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, do the thing and you shall have the power. If you learn how the game works, eventually you will have the power of growing an audience. So if growing your own YouTube channel is something that you've been working on, you want to learn, there's an application in the description box to sign up for either one-on-one coaching or the group coaching academy with me. We can just get on a quick 45-minute consultation call together, figure out what your goals are, figure out what's realistic but still exciting, make a plan, and execute. Principle number 2 for increasing testosterone, and this is gonna seem, it's gonna seem potentially cringe or out there, but it is the idea of putting yourself in an environment of beautiful women. I know that sounds superficial, or like, I don't know how it sounds actually, but it is backed up. There was a study that investigated the impact of female presence on male testosterone levels and their risk-taking behaviors. The subjects were actually like young skateboarders, and what they found is that they were asked to do their like skateboarding tricks either in front of a male researcher or a young 18-year-old attractive researcher. And the attractiveness of the female researcher was assessed by 20 independent males who rated her from 1 to 7, 7 being very, very attractive. And what they found is actually insane. Testosterone levels were 39% higher when the female researcher was present. 39% higher. So it's like, why focus on the minutia? Like eating a bunch of garlic, even though I do support you eating a bunch of garlic to raise your testosterone levels. But this is a major thing. When the skateboarders were by the female researcher, they were taking greater risks on their tricks. And notably, this resulted in more success, like they pulled off cooler tricks, but also there were more crashes. The researchers speculate that males take more risks when an attractive female is present in an attempt to impress her and thereby increase their dating potential. Of course, that makes a ton of sense. And even as someone who understands these principles and almost feels like, I've moved past them, I still find myself susceptible to them. It's like I'm at the gym and I'm just boxing, kind of just working the heavy bag for a little bit. And then some girl walks by in the gym and I find myself literally punching the bag harder. Does this mean I think you should ogle women and be a creep and stare at them? No, dude. Like I want you to be cool about this. But I just think there's leverage in putting yourself in environments where the company and the community is attractive. There's like attractive women in the group. Something about that association, it just makes you better. The third idea is actually very quick and very tactical, but it is really important. One thing I found in my testosterone research endeavors over the last several years is that you can't really raise testosterone that much. Even if you do NoFap, it goes up after 7 days, but it's pretty minute and then it comes back down. But the one thing that will have a drastic effect on your testosterone levels is sleep. So the third principle is that you should sleep in the cold and dark for as long as you're able. Like wake up naturally, ideally, and just sleep in a very cold, very dark environment. Stay away from blue light at night. This is an idea that I haven't always honored, but when I sleep well, obviously performance just goes through the roof. Cutting back on sleep drastically reduces a healthy young man's testosterone levels, according to a study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, and it's pretty major. If you get less than 5 hours of sleep in any given night, it's enough to reduce your testosterone levels by the same amount as aging 10 to 15 years. So getting enough sleep is one of the quickest levers to pull to having your testosterone levels be as high as possible. It is important though, because testosterone levels across the board are on the decline. For some reason, since the 70s until now, our testosterone levels have dropped from 800 to 600 nanograms per deciliter. This might be because of the increase in plastics and whatnot. We don't get as much sunlight. We're more glued to our screens. But the thesis of this video essentially is that there is a psychological component to testosterone that you can tap into. If you're new to the channel, my name is Nikhil. This channel is a combination of personal development videos for creatives, lifestyle challenges, comedy sketches, and more. If you like this video, if it appeals to you, consider subscribing. But with that being said, for those of us who keep ourselves healthy, fit, keep ourselves in that state where our desire is stronger than our fear so that we can take on more acts of courage To us I say greatness is coming. Till next time.